Yes, tubaniriza nnyo ku Mpewoza TV Africa nga yenze omuge Jingo Kalule era nga bulijjo Breakfast in Africa, your program gye tuba tukwasaganye nayo. Let me hope everyone is fine and you've taken the right meal, the right breakfast. Some people take meals in the morning. I don't know, a meal is supposed to be lunchtime, or you can take a meal in the morning?
Breakfast is classed as a meal. But some people take a large breakfast. Some people maybe have one or two.
What is a meal and what is breakfast? Is it according to time?
No, they say you're supposed to have 3 meals a day. So you start in the morning, as you get up, you have something to eat before you move out. So that's a meal.
Breakfast is a meal?
Yes, it's a meal. You break your fast. That's what they call it.
With a meal?
Whether you want a large breakfast, as some have, or just something basic. Just this, you can start the day and then have your main meal at around midday.
You know these things of English, breakfast and
lunch, and then supper.
But some people thought that when I talk about breakfast, it is just taking tea and some snacks. So that is not a meal. A meal is supposed to be food.
But
full blast, that's what they call a meal.
Have what you call a heavy breakfast. So they have a good,
by the way,
powerful breakfast in the morning.
Heavy breakfast. Heavy breakfast, that means that it can be a meal.
Yes, it can be a meal, and it will take you some from that. You can even miss lunch, and then eat the evening meal later on. If you're going to be very busy, you eat something heavy in the morning, and then you're busy throughout the day. Then you eat at night.
So if I take if I've not eaten from morning, and I eat something at around noon, is that breakfast?
Being your first meal of the day. Technically, it's classed as lunch because of the time.
You see, because you said you're breaking the fast.
Breakfast is normally seen as a morning thing.
But what is the fact?
If you break your fast in the afternoon, no, you can't call breakfast. You can't say you're eating breakfast.
What is it? Lunch. What is it? That's lunch.
That is lunch.
Wow. Okay, you're still watching TV Africa. Once again, I'm Jingo Kalule as usual, and my colleague,
Brother Mbogo.
Brother Mbogo. Yes. Today we want to talk about you've seen what has been happening in the US and
the Trump election.
The Trump election has really overwhelmed people. People are very, very surprised. Others are very happy. Others are very sad. With elections, they had to be the other side that is, sad, and the other side will be jubilating. And we are so surprised. Me too.
You're surprised?
Yeah,
at the outcome?
Somewhere, somehow.
I was not so surprised. I didn't think Trump would last 2 terms. The president normally lasts 2 terms. Only 1 or 2 have lasted a single term. But his type of presidency, the things he has been doing over the last 4 years, I'm not surprised that he has gone. For example, this Black Lives Matter thing, he was very much critical of the Black Lives Matter protests.
Do you think it was one of the things that really affected Trump?
In recent months, yes, because
so before the Black Lives Matter thing. He was okay?
No, he was not okay. Look at his behavior with China. Look at his behavior with the coronavirus. Remember, he denied it completely at the beginning, back in January. Said it was a hoax.
But if you can look at most of the countries, most of the presidents couldn't really stand up and really analyze coronavirus. They didn't have a conclusion on coronavirus. Actually, he's one of the people who came up and said, my take is this, but others were like swinging.
Others were not sure, but they didn't go out right and say that it's a hoax or it's not real. He acknowledged later when millions of Americans started dying, he had no choice but to accept that it exists.
He was trying to fight the economy, fight for the economy.
They want to, even look at how many Americans at the moment are protesting the new lockdown measures. Even in Europe they're protesting, bringing back lockdown. Because in those countries, when the lockdown ended, it was seen as if the amount of people dying was decreasing. But suddenly there's a surge in recent months, but specifically in those countries where winter is coming, because this coronavirus is similar to flu. So in a sense, you can't tell. As this colder weather comes in, you know that corona also, in warmer countries like Africa, it doesn't really affect. The weather is one of the things that why it hasn't spread in Africa so much. But in colder countries, it seems to be.
No, I don't want. Let's not go in depth right now. Before we go in depth into the corona thing, I want us to talk about the Black Lives Matter.
Hey.
How it really affected. How you feel it really affected the big man
Alright,
Trump.
You look at the amount of protests that took place across the world, even in America. This Black Lives Matter incident or this cause, I think it stems from, you remember the images of the George Floyd, how he was killed. This guy was kneeling on his neck, and he was very casual about it, as if it's something that is not a big deal. I think that image shook a lot of people.
But
The
such
fact that
things used to
somebody,
happen.
the way somebody can kneel on somebody's neck and that person dies, and you're just so casual about it, like his life doesn't matter, as the Black Lives Matter emblem says. So that image, I think, caught the eyes of a lot of people around the world. That's why there are so many protests over that matter.
But such things were happening in the US for a long time. Though
It
this one
happening.
just sparked everything, you know.
No, I think also the fact that the lockdown was there. You know, a lot of people are busy. They don't pay much attention to these type of things. But when you're now at home, you're forced to be at home. And you're forced to watch the news and see what's happening. I think that's one of the reasons. Plus, it wasn't just the Black Lives Matter. It's also the fact that people are at home. Many people have lost their jobs. People have lost their livelihoods. They don't have money. Those issues also came into
the corona thing and
this Black Lives Matter issue.
they are the key to the downfall of.
But I think the lockdown issue is part of the background to why so many people.
So if
have come out
the
recently.
lockdown and the Black Lives thing wasn't there, do you think Trump would succeed?
I still doubt whether he'll succeed. There's a lot of issues.
Or you're just negative about this?
No, because look, at the beginning of his presidency, remember the issue of the Muslims. He wanted to ban almost all Muslims from America. At the beginning of his certain Muslims from certain countries, Arab countries, he wanted to ban them. Then no longer, even refugees were no longer allowed to come into America. Those type of things make you look at Trump and say that there's something wrong with this guy, because he's looking at Muslims in a negative light in general. And the way he's criticizing the people coming in from the Mexican border, immigrants as all criminals, basically.
When you look at, here we're looking at Trump and Joseph Robinette Biden, the voting. We really feel the black man, the African Americans. They told me the percentage of the African American is too high in the US, right?
Percentage, the population is not that much.
Population is, but why are they so influential?
In terms of voting, yes, the number of black Americans, African Americans that vote can make a difference in terms of the results of an election. Even if the population is only, say, something like 16 million. Just 5% of that can swing the vote to either side if they decide to go out and vote. And in these elections, I think a lot voted for the Democrats because of the issues like the racism and the Black Lives Matter issue, and even the coronavirus is one of the main issues why a lot of whites, I think, also voted for the Democrats, because people wanted Trump out, basically.
The people wanted Trump out, and even the neighboring countries and the so-called the Chinese. They wanted Trump out, actually. Those different countries, and I don't know why. Is it because Trump had become a thorn in the throat?
Side, yes.
He has become a problem. You know, sometimes when you have policies like some countries, they really need some people to dictate. Do you believe that?
To be a dictator.
To be a dictator. There are things that you have to be a dictator to be able to handle them. So Trump looked like a dictator somehow, because he was coming up saying, you know, I want this. There is no coronavirus. There is no this, you know, because some
people agree with his policies.
Yes.
In terms of, say, China, because a lot of jobs have moved from America to China. And China is coming up as the so-called second biggest economy. Some say it's
Yes,
now
yes,
the largest economy. I think America is fighting against that. That's why they're going against Huawei and a lot of Chinese of the larger companies. Huawei can't use the technology that it has been using. The microprocessors that use in mobile phone and certain devices. That, in fact, America has a strong influence in most of the manufacturers of microprocessors around, those in Switzerland, in Taiwan, even those in China who are making, they banned those companies from accessing American, because America makes, the machinery that makes the microchips, they're mainly American, made by America. So if you want to make a microchip, or you want the manufacturing equipment, you have to get it from the US.
Yeah, at the genesis of this program, I mentioned about getting surprised of Trump being thrown out of power. Why did I say that? You know, when you look at anyone in power, it's very, very, very difficult to throw them out, mainly in Africa.
In Africa, but not in America, it's a bit different.
Why is it different?
No, the system may be the same. The head figure changes.
Let's have a little break as we come back and talk about why is it that in Africa things are different. It's not easy to throw someone out of power when they are in charge of everything. Let's come back. Let's have a little break.
Anti ndi mukazi obw'oluwola bwafiga naye ngeno numa nchikola lwa maka anti ndi mukazi chaveli mu edenyeka ngolwo mama wensi iwe olwo naba wensereyale era naba wono mwami agume muchala oyo ye muchala natale yazala agwane ekitiibwa manyi ga muchala oyo ye muchala natale yazala agwane ekitiibwa oyo ye muchala tambulanga cheza yomba bangaimba zemanyo mwasinga guno mubiri gumamba oyo ye muchala chatutondelwa tizayandi muchala chatutondelwa sanile birungi chatutondelwa sanile okuweebwa chatutondelwa
Yeah, welcome back from the break. As usual, it is Jingo Kale on Breakfast in Africa. Let me hope everything is fine that side. Yeah, we were still trying to analyze the situation of presidents of different countries. For example, when you look at the US, how they have handled their voting and the voting
The
exercise
elections,
that Trump has lost, and how someone can really overthrow someone already in government, in power. Here in Africa, you look at such a thing that has not been really happening. When it happens, when you find something happening of that sort, there is always a scrub, a scramble.
No, I wouldn't say, all right,
pull.
look at Tanzania. Tanzania has been changing leaders relatively regular over the years, but there has not been that tension there. In Kenya, yes, they have been changing, but that tension, there are people rioting, people have died during the process of elections. But here in Uganda, and some other countries, leaders are still, for many years, are still here. And we don't know when they'll be overthrown or they'll leave power.
Why is it that people don't have that trust, that confidence, that they feel that when someone is in power, it's not easy for you to vote and vote this person
Out of power.
Yeah,
That happens.
because they feel you're the one controlling most of the things, and you know you can easily say, Electoral Commission, let's do this, let's do this, let's have this, you know.
I think people realize over time how much corruption is in their country. When the leaders just come to power and you see the second term is there, and then you see when, for example, when they.
But corruption is in every country,
in every
but
country,
the extent is
is different. Do you have a country where the leader is supposed to be in power for 2 terms?
Yeah.
You start to fear when you see that they're changing the constitution so he can continue to be in power. That's when you begin to worry about whether you'll be able to get rid of that leader unless you use some kind of force. When you see that they can change the system to suit their needs, that's when you begin to worry about a leader. But when you see they respect the system, even when they respect the system, there's still a worry that somebody can, or the system can be used to rig the election so that they stay in power.
But it's not easy, even in the normal situation whereby there is any competition. Those who have lost end up saying, you know what, I've not lost. I would. It was like this. They were rigging this.
But
You know,
even
I want to sue.
in the U.S. at the moment, Trump is doing that. He wants to sue certain states because he said the election.
But is
was
there a
lost.
democracy really in the U.S.?
Is there democracy?
Because people are saying, and the U.S. there is democracy, but the problem is in Africa, African countries there is no democracy. That's why you see Trump managed to, Biden managed to throw out Trump.
Well, you can say there, but what is democracy? Is it just
Yes,
voting
yes.
for somebody,
Just,
a new leader, but the system doesn't change? The people don't really have they have a say in selecting a new leader, but do they have a say in changing the policies, really?
Yeah, because that's something different. Changing the policies
And changing the leader. You
But
can
I think
change
the leader is the one to change the policies.
No, the government in power, the senators or the MPs are supposed to implement those things. It's not just the leader to decide this policy is coming to place. There has to be a vote in parliament to decide.
But the parliament and the other leaders changing the policies, that means democracy has to be coming in.
The people are supposed to have the MPs or senators are supposed to represent their people. If their people want this policy to be implemented, then he's supposed to defend that, to go to parliament and decide, yes, I'm bringing forth what my people are saying. But you find that's not always the case.
Do you think Biden will really change the U.S.?
No. Remember when Obama was in power, he was the vice president. And he's a person who supported many of these wars in Iraq and in Afghanistan. So, in fact, Trump is somebody who wanted to pull out of those countries, Iraq and Iran. But even though it's
when he was talking about building a wall, building what,
he wanted to fence off America.
The fence of America,
America first and so
my
forth.
God.
But some of his ideas are good for a country to want to, for example, manufacture its own things instead of things being manufactured abroad in China. He wants to bring back those jobs into America, even though
But does that need fencing it off?
No, of course it doesn't. That one doesn't at all. That fencing off, is, you know, this white supremacy mentality that America doesn't want foreigners coming in from Mexico and so forth. Part of America was Mexico originally until they took it over. And these are the native people of the land. Who I don't see why they shouldn't be able to come across. Because the whites have only been there something like 400 or 500 years. They came in more in recent years. And then you claim this is your land. And these others, foreigners. But you're immigrants, basically. But you're claiming other immigrants can't come in.
You're still watching TV Africa. Stay tuned on TV Africa. It has been Breakfast in Africa as usual. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.